So you think you want to become a police officer, but you have no idea where to start. Well, today I'm going to use my experience supervising the background investigation and recruiting unit for the largest sheriff's office in Virginia to help you answer that question, give you some advice and strategies to how to be a successful candidate in a law enforcement background investigation process. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Colin Whittington, and welcome to the Recruiting Hero Show. This is episode 34, and this is a channel where we talk about law enforcement, whether it be getting into law enforcement, doing well in law enforcement, or looking for a career after law enforcement. As I mentioned, my name is Colin Whittington. I am the CEO and founder of Recruiting Heroes, LLC, a national employment agency dedicated to helping law enforcement officers in a variety of stages of their career. I'm also a two-time best-selling author and your host of the Recruiting Heroes Show. I'm so excited to have you here today. And if you're watching, it probably means you're interested in joining the law enforcement profession, which I myself did. And I can't wait to tell you some strategies and advice on how to do that process successfully and how to have a great career in law enforcement. Before we get started, do please like this video and subscribe to this channel. That way you always get notified when I come out with more information for you. I'm always giving away free resources, guides, and other tools that can hopefully help you throughout your career. Today, I'm giving away my Heroes Job Search Guide, which is a phenomenal resource for anybody, whether you're entering law enforcement or leaving law enforcement. It comes with my professional resume template, instructions on how to write a fantastic resume to help you stand out in the hiring process, interview tips, and so much more. This guide will be a huge resource for you as you go into your law enforcement career. You can get a copy of it by clicking the link down below in the comments section or the description of the video, or visit recruitingheroesllc.com. So do that at your leisure and read through that and make the suggestions that I recommend, and it'll really help you find a job of your dreams. So you want to get into law enforcement. That sounds awesome. I myself served about 8 years in law enforcement, working for the largest sheriff's office in Virginia, which is the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, located about 40 minutes from Washington, D.C. One of the first things you're going to have to do when you decide whether or not you want to go into law enforcement or not is what I did. Really think about the fact that you're entering a really challenging, difficult, but also rewarding career path. Being a law enforcement officer is life-changing. It is not a job you have just from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You're going to be a cop 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Whether or not you're on duty or not off duty, you're always going to have that law enforcement mindset going, and it's going to be something that changes your life drastically. So have an honest and open conversation first with yourself. Figure out whether or not this is a career path that you want to do, knowing that you're going to be working long hours, potentially working nights, missing holidays, missing birthdays, and going to be doing some pretty intense stuff and seeing some pretty terrible things throughout your career. But if it's something you think is something that you want to do, talk to your friends, talk to your family about it. Make sure they're all on board. If you have a spouse, make sure he or she is really on board with that process as well. For me, I was very fortunate. At the time, I was dating a wonderful girl who now became my wife, and she was incredibly supportive. My family also were as well. My mom, of course, was horrified by the idea of me becoming a cop. So that was a little bit longer of a discussion, but otherwise, it was a great process. Once you've decided you want to get into law enforcement, the next thing you have to really figure out is what agency do you want to work for? If you are like I am in Northern Virginia, there are a ton of incredible agencies, from the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, which is where I worked, the Fairfax County PD, Prince William PD, even the Metropolitan Washington Police Department, and numerous other agencies here in Northern Virginia or in DC as well. So figuring out what agency you want to work for is really critical. And I recommend you do that by doing a variety of things. Go to their website, go to their social media pages, see what they're all about. What do they believe in? If you really know you want to get into law enforcement and you want to get into forensics, well, maybe a really small agency, let's say the Leesburg Police Department. Great agency, nothing against them, but they're a smaller agency. They're for a small town, right? If you want to get into forensics, that may not be the best agency for you because their forensic unit is pretty much non-existent. You might want to consider going to a larger agency. Perhaps you really like the small town feel and you want to go to a town that has, a police department of 10 officers or something like that. That's something to consider as well. Then also think about whether you want to go police department or sheriff's office. As some of you know, sheriffs are elected by their citizens, which means they have to, every 4 years or however long their terms are, they have to go for re-election, which does make it political. But at the same time, once they're elected, they no longer have any boss besides the citizens of their county. So there's no politicians telling them what to do. He or she can decide what's best for their agency. And that's what I ended up going with. I ended up going with a sheriff's office, which for me was a great decision. But there are also amazing police departments out there as well. Go on to websites like Glassdoor and Indeed. Even though those are typically meant for private companies, you can also get employee reviews for people who have worked in that profession, inside of that agency, and see what people are saying about working for one agency over another. Look at their salaries, look at their retirement packages, consider all those factors. And one of the most important tips, go on a ride along. Most of these agencies offer ride-alongs to civilians as long as you fill out a form, are at least 18 years of age and have a valid ID and all those kind of things. Doing a ride-along is going to be life-changing for you. You may think you know what it's like to be a cop, but until you actually sit in a cruiser, do a traffic stop, or sit along on a traffic stop, go to a calls for service, and really see what happens in the day-to-day life, you have no idea what it's like to be a cop. So do a ride along with a couple agencies. Ask the officer some questions. Don't be a pain in the ass about it, but ask them, honest questions and really be there as be a sponge, listen to what they have to say, and internalize it all. And then just figure out what agency you want to work for. The next part is the actual application process. That's where I'm the expert on this matter because I actually supervised the entire background investigation and recruiting unit, including recruiters, background investigations, and all you name it, everything else involved in the process. So I know this process inside and out. First, you have to fill out a county or city or state application, as well as a screening questionnaire. The screening questionnaire will most likely be 15 to 20 pages, maybe even more. And this pack is going to ask you everything about your personal history, your criminal history, your driving history, your financial history. Huge tip here, be as thorough and as honest as possible. If they catch you in a lie, even if it's a small little lie that really didn't mean a whole lot, the fact that you're deceitful is going to be a much bigger problem than if you had just admitted to whatever the issue was. For us, my agency, they didn't like anyone. They weren't a huge fan of marijuana smokers. I'll be honest. But at the same time, if it was more than 3 years ago, they really didn't care. But let's say you smoked pot 10 years ago, but on the form you say, nope, never smoked it in my life. Then during our background investigation, we figure out, you know what? They actually have smoked marijuana. The fact that you smoked isn't a huge problem, but the fact that you lied to us, that's the bigger concern. And for my agency, if we found out that you had been deceitful about anything in the process, it was an automatic disqualifier. No matter how much we liked you, you were automatically disqualified. And the chances of you ever even coming back in the process and being successful in the future were slim to none. So be honest throughout the process. I should have started off probably by talking about some of the requirements to even be in law enforcement. For the most part, in most agencies, you have to be a United States citizen, be 21 years of age. Some agencies allow a little younger depending on the rules of that state, but 21 years of age is pretty typical. Have a valid driver's license and have no felony convictions. Those are usually four of the very common things that you have to have. U.S. citizen, 21 years of age, driver's license, and no felony convictions. Some agencies also have a stance on no first degree misdemeanors as well. So you just have to see what the standards are for the agency that interests you. So you're going to go ahead and apply in this agency. Most likely, you're not going to hear back for a week, two, maybe even longer, depending on how busy they are. Once you do hear back, it means that they have looked at your initial paperwork and decided that what you have provided so far was good enough to move forward. Nothing that you've noted down was necessarily disqualifying. For my agency, the very first step was a group physical assessment where you would come in. We would host these about once a month. The candidates that from that month would come in and provide a physical fitness test or go through a physical fitness test. Our physical fitness test was a maximum push-ups in 2 minutes, maximum sit-ups in 2 minutes, a step-up test where you stepped on and off of a bench for 3 minutes, and then we checked your heart rate, a vertical jump test, and then a 1.5-mile run. Some agencies have very strict standards as far as the physical fitness requirements. We have to get 10 push-ups and 20 sit-ups, whatever else there is. My agency did not have that, and I've seen other agencies go away with set standards and really look at the whole package as a candidate. But I think if you're trying to be a very competitive candidate, come in being as fit as you can be. You don't have to be a track star by any means, but if you can spend a few weeks, even a few months getting ready physically, go on a mile-long run. Do some push-ups every now and then, some sit-ups, some pull-ups. Anything you can do to make yourself a little stronger and a little fitter is going to make you stand out a little bit more over the competition. But on game day, on the day you actually go to test, how much effort you give is going to be huge. You might not be the fittest person, but if you try 10 times harder than the next person next to you, that's going to be way more obvious than the person who's just naturally fit but is dogging it. So give your 110% all when you come to the fitness test. For my agency, the day of the fitness test, we also had a panel interview. During this panel interview, candidates would interview with about 3 members of our agency. These 3 members of the agency were not part of the background investigation and recruiting team. They were supplemental recruiters who were doing this as a supplemental duty, because what we wanted to do was get input from other members of the agency. And they were deputies as well as supervisors as well, so sergeants, lieutenants, and other ranks as well. We typically ask 5 questions, and the questions aren't anything very unusual, something you probably expect. Tell me about your weaknesses. Tell me about your strengths. Why do you want to join law enforcement? One of them questions was about, would you be able to use deadly force if necessary? Well, the first part of the question was, when is deadly force authorized for law enforcement, and would you be able to do so if required? We had plenty of candidates to come in and say, no, I could never do it. And of course, none of us ever want to use deadly force. But in law enforcement, which is a very dangerous job, there's going to be times where that may be necessary. And having candidates who aren't willing or able to do that would be a risk to themselves as well as the other officers and civilians as well. So make sure you think about that question ahead of time, because that might come up during the background investigation process. So after all that is done, the team in the background investigation team is going to take all the information. They're going to take your packet, your application, your physical fitness scores, and your answers to the panel interview, and they're going to review it all and decide which candidates they want to move forward with. Typically, you'll find out pretty quick. It'll either be no thank you, come again some other time, or you'll be assigned to a background investigator. So typically, every candidate is assigned to one investigator who will be the point of contact throughout the rest of the process. And in this process, you'll go through a number of things. First, a polygraph. The polygraph exam scared the crap out of me when I first went through the background investigation process, but honestly, it's not nearly as bad as you think. I know a lot of us want to plan and read everything we can about the process. Don't go too in detail about polygraphs and start reading about breathing techniques and other things to do to beat the polygraph. That's just going to ruin your chances. Go in there with an open mind and just follow the instructions of the polygrapher. You'll get through it, I promise. And honestly, you spend only a handful of minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, actually hooked up to the polygraph machine. The other 3 hours or so are an interview where you sit down with the polygrapher and have a conversation. He or she will go through your background packet and ask you questions about your answers and getting more detail about anything you admitted in that packet. Then when it comes to the polygraph, they're just going to ask you, were you honest during our conversation? Did you lie about this? Did you lie about that? And again, it takes about 15, 20 minutes on the actual machine. And it's not painful. It doesn't hurt. You literally sit there in a chair. You try to remain still, look at the wall, and answer questions, yes or no. That's it. Yes or no questions. And it's honestly quite simple. If you pass that, you usually move on to the background investigation interview with your background investigator, where they again go through your packet, and go through the answers that you answered on that packet and seeing what else there you might want to share. Then you take a step aside, and the background investigation process really goes forward. Your investigator is going to look at your social media pages. So make sure your social media pages are professional, or at least not filled with any kind of racist crap or anything else that could disqualify you. They're going to look at your financial backgrounds. If you are currently in collections and they're seizing money, garnishing your wages, that's going to be a problem. If you have gone in bankruptcy in the last couple of years, that's usually a problem as well. If they find out a whole bunch of things about your drug use, that could be an issue as well. Hardcore drugs, fentanyl, heroin, those kind of things are typically automatic disqualifiers no matter how long it's been. Not all agencies, but in a lot of decent agencies, that's typically the case. But if you've done less serious drugs, if you've done, pot, like I mentioned, if you've done ecstasy, things like that, they probably won't be disqualifying. But again, be honest about it. Because what's going to happen is your investigator is not going to talk to your references that you provided. So typically we ask people to provide 3 to 4 references or so. These are called provided references because they're provided to us by the candidate. So we go to these provided references, and nearly every single time they'll say great things about you because you have obviously talked to them. They know they're being provided, and they're going to say good things. What we do, though, is then ask the provided references, who else could we talk to that might know Jim or Sarah? Who else would know them? And then they will provide us with a few names. These are called developed references because we develop them ourselves. And we go talk to these people. And these people typically aren't aware that you've applied or not sure that we're going to call. And they're the ones that we typically get more information about, where someone might disclose something that was not previously disclosed to us. And that's typically where we find the candidate in the lie. So do be aware that's going to happen as well. We're not just going to talk to your provided references. We're going to develop some of our own. We're going to go talk to your neighbors. We're going to talk to your former employers and ask questions like, was he a good employee? Did he get proper notice when he left? Did he ever steal? Did he ever lie? Was he ever consistently late? These are questions we're going to ask and make sure that your answers that you gave line up with their answers as well. As that's going on, you'll also be scheduled for a psychological exam. It's a long ass day. I won't lie to you. It's probably about 5 or 6 hours. You have to fill out a 400 or 500 question questionnaire, talk to psychologists, and go about a whole bunch of mental questions. And it's a pretty exhausting day. It's not a lot of fun, but again, it doesn't hurt. It just takes a long time. You'll also go to a physical exam where they make sure you're physically healthy. If you're concerned about the physical part, I wouldn't be. For the most part, everybody passes that. I've seen officers who are incredibly overweight pass the physical part. They do check things like eyesight and heart rate and stress tests and things like that. As long as you're decently healthy, that should be absolutely no problem for you. If you take medication, be honest about that and be honest with the background investigator as well as being honest with the doctors. That way it can be documented and you can be approved for whatever medication you need to take. Just be very honest from the get-go. If everything there checks out, the background investigator is going to complete a big old packet of information that he or she is going to send up to his or her chain of command. So it'll go to the supervisor of the unit, which was me at the time, and of course my counterparts at other agencies, and it'll go all the way up, usually up the chain of command, typically pretty high. The smaller to mid-sized agencies, all the way up to the chief or sheriff, and if it's a large agency, it might stop at a certain rank, but it goes usually pretty high up. Most agencies nowadays want their candidates to come in for a final interview, and that's usually with the chief, the sheriff, or his or her designee. So you'll interview with a high-ranking member of the agency, and again, express why you want to work for that agency. And one of the biggest things is come prepared. Dress professional. If you're a male, suit and tie should be absolutely required. Females, the equivalent for you. And have great answers for why you want to join law enforcement and why you want to join this specific agency. Because they're going to ask you that. And if you can't explain why you want to work for Loudoun County or Fairfax or NYPD or LAPD, that's going to look bad on your part. And that might be enough to disqualify you as well. So be very eager about that. So after that, hopefully they sign off on you. You get your signed offer letter saying, hey, you are set to get hired, which is awesome. Congratulations. Some agencies, what they'll do is they'll say the next academy isn't for 4 months. So your start date is a few weeks before that. What my agency does, as well as other agencies nowadays with the vacancy crisis, is they'll start hiring people regardless of what month it is. So our academies were always January and June. Let's say you were hired in February, just missed it by a month. They'd have you do admin work for the next few months until the next academy. But then the academy starts, and the academy is a whole nother game. I'll make more videos about this in the future, but come prepared. Be physically fit as you can be. But again, don't be a track star. Don't have to know everything about criminal justice or anything else like that, but come ready. Be on time the first day. Do not have anything illegal in your car because they will do a vehicle search either the first day or sometime in the first week. You're going to get yelled at the first couple of days for sure, no matter what academy it is. Some are way more strict than others. A lot of the state police academies are more strict than the local sheriffs or police departments, but every single one of them is going to have some element of yelling and push-ups and sit-ups and that kind of stuff. Just put your head down, be polite, be professional, and get it done. But like I said, I'll make more videos in the future about the actual police academy process because that's a huge other part. Once you get to the academy, you go to the field training. Those are some horrifying months because even though you've gone through a 6-month academy, you still don't know jack. And all of a sudden now you're actually on the street doing cop stuff. And you have an FTO next to you grading you and scoring you and keeping track of you the whole time. It's a stressful process, but at the same time, you'll get through that as well. And then finally, on one of your last days, you'll actually get the keys to your very own cruiser if they actually assign you a cruiser, or you'll get a fleet car. But I'll never forget the moment for my agency when I got my very last day of field training. I was handed the keys to my personal Dodge Charger. And actually, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't a Dodge Charger. It was a Crown Victoria. We were still transitioning to the Dodge Charger, but I was one of the newer guys, so I got a Crown Vic, an old one. But that feeling of driving home for the very first time, all by myself, no FTO in the car, no one looking at it, I was actually a cop, was the most incredible experience I've ever experienced, I'll be honest with you. And it makes that entire background investigation process, the academy process, all worthwhile. And then you go forward and have an amazing career, whether you stay 8 years like myself or 25, 30 years like a lot of my coworkers have done. It's an amazing career. It's one that you definitely want to think about. One of my first steps I mentioned, consider whether or not this is a career path for you. It can be an amazing journey, but it's also a very challenging one as well. You might see friends hurt or killed. You will see dead bodies numerous times. You're gonna have late nights. You're gonna have 20-hour days, standing in the rain, standing in the freezing cold or the 100-degree weather. There's gonna be challenges, but it's so freaking worth it. I love my time in law enforcement, and I hope you will as well. Again, do download my Heroes Job Search Guide. I have it linked down below, or it's at recruitingheroesllc.com. A lot of the stuff in there will help you make sure you present yourself in a fantastic way when it comes time to applying for law enforcement. Again, like this video if you don't mind. Comment down below what agency you want to join, and then subscribe to the channel, because then you can get notified when I put out new information, and it helps me know that people actually care what I have to say, which I hope you do, because I do have a lot of experience that I think could benefit you. If you have suggestions for future topics for videos, comment that down below as well, because I want this to be useful to you as you go throughout your career. So make sure you leave a comment down below. And then that's all I have for today. So I will see you on the next video. Stay safe out there. It's a crazy world, and get after that application and go after your dreams, because they are absolutely within your grasp, and you will look back and be proud of what you've done throughout your professional career. So I'll see you on the next video. Have a good day. Bye.